Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be cooking up a beat in the style of some guys like Lovell, Suicide Boys, Bones, one of those like really dark, ambient, hard-hitting trap beats. I'm going to be using a sample I made not too long ago. I will be breaking that sample down, and then I will be cooking up some drums on top of that, doing it live on camera for once, and I'll kind of like walk you through my process on that and everything. Before we get into it, I do want to say my new drum kit Duality is out now. There's a lot of sounds in there, way too many honestly, probably. I think it's like 150 plus. But yeah, the link to that will be in the description, and you can use the code video25 for 25% off of that. And yeah, alright, so here's the sample we're going to be using. It's called Ruin, 106 BPM, we're in A minor. So yeah, that's the sample. Pretty slow and like just dark ambient type stuff. I think all of these sounds, with the exception of this arcade vocal, are from one-shot kits. First sound I started with was this necklace bell. I think it's out of the Bass One Rogue kit. Sounds like that, and I just laid down this super simple pattern. So this is basically just a 4-1 chord progression. It's a minor 4 to a minor 1 chord, which is like the most common chord progression I hear nowadays in like samples and loops, and my own too. This is basically the only chord progression I've been using the last couple weeks, but it's just a D minor going down to an A minor. And I made sure to throw in some half steps just for that dissonance and that implied darkness, and it just sounds like this. That repeats. So those just sound really good together. A simple way to do stuff like this, is just have something super simple, copy it over, and then hit shift and down 5 times. And there's your second chord. Simple little trick right there. The only effects I put on that was this pretty wide bandpass. The second sound I used was this Jupiter harsh lead from the Loner Ricochet one-shot kit. Pattern is also super simple. It's just a bunch of half steps. And it's the same trick there. These are just 5 down from the first half. Nothing too crazy there. I just threw a vintage verb, pretty heavy reverb, the basic vintage punch preset in Effect Rack, and then I added a phase mistress on the deep phase preset, and I brought the mix down. Then we have a band pass and a pan man. Third sound I added was this bass, which is the frog bass from my new drum kit. Sounds like that. This is the pattern. Super simple. That first note just cuts off at the second snare, and then at the end of each 4 bars it changes notes. This one is a slide, obviously. I like doing that, just like a high slide up to a new note at the end of a phrase. After that, I added this little harp, but this is just the chords strummed out. I threw a halftime on the 1/8 triplet preset, then a comeback kid with just a pretty normal delay, another band pass, and a J37 on the aquarium preset, but I brought down the low pass and I brought down the level on the delay a little bit. Then there's this arcade vocal from the Ancient Message Bank. I just threw it on A minor because we're in A minor. I turned off all the effects in the plugin because I wanted to add my own, and all I added was this vintage verb and another band pass, and that sounds like this. Super dark and like moody, scary shit. I really like stuff like that. And then finally I added this little reverse lead. I'll play it as it is reversed with effects, and then I'll go back and I'll break down how I did it. Alright, so the sound I use for that is also a one-shot. It's the Poly 6 soft lead from that same Loner one-shot kit. Sounds like that. The pattern I made is this, which honestly, I just like clicked around. It doesn't sound good forward, really. And I kind of did that on purpose. I just wanted notes that were in the scale with lots of like bends and like weird interval jumps, so that when it's reversed, it kind of sounds spooky and haunting and really weird. So this is what it sounds like forward. So I just took that, right-clicked it, quick rendered as audio clip. I got this, I reversed it, and then I chopped it in half, and I moved the first half to the end and the second half to the beginning so that they were in the right spots and over the correct chords. And then for the effects, I added a vintage verb, a comeback kid, just a high pass, and then I added a shaper box just to give it kind of a pumping feeling, and I brought the mix down a little bit. So that sounds like this all together. All right, let's get into the drums. I'm just gonna make a new pattern. I'm not really sure yet how I wanna structure this, so I'm just gonna put the drums under like the most basic bare part of the sample, and then we'll mess around with it later. I'm gonna start with just like a snare, kick, and an 808, and then build from there. So the way this kit is built, and the reason it's called duality, is each type of sound has two subfolders. There's an alpha and an omega. Big brain. In the alpha folder is more just like normal standard sounds, and then in the omega is more like weird experimental sounds. So just for example, here's a couple of the normal alpha 808s and a couple of the omega more experimental weird ones. Stuff like that. And the same is true for all the basses, all the claps, all the hats, kicks, percs, rims, snares, everything, even the effects. There's a shit ton of crashes, lots of risers, lots of textures. Then there's all these just like random accents, hits, and other stuff that I didn't know what folder to put it in. So yeah, I'm gonna start by finding an 808 I like. Then a snare and a kick. I think the kicks in the omega folder are some of like my favorite kicks I've ever used, let alone made. There's just like some weird like crispy textures in some of them that I really like this crisp one. Probably gonna use that. Starting with the snares on the 3, I'm gonna actually send these to a mixer track and throw some reverb on it. Right, kick is next. I hear a little da-da-da right here, so I just went to 1/6. And then I hear another little like a really fast roll right there, so I'm gonna mess around with that. And you can hear right there they kind of like clipped because they overlapped each other. So I'm just gonna right click it and I go cut itself so it doesn't do that. Alright, now I'm just gonna follow that kick pattern pretty much on the root notes of the chords. And it did the same thing there where it went over itself, so I'm going to right click, cut itself. I'm also actually going to go into the sample, turn off loop points, and square off that envelope so that I have more control over it. So there's this little trick that I've definitely covered a couple times on this channel, but I do like to do it a lot, so I'm going to talk about it again. You have a note that slides from a note at 0 velocity up to a note at full velocity. So it ramps up in volume as it slides. So it sounds like this. So it's almost like a reverse 808 in a way, but it changes pitch also, which is pretty fucking sick. So I got those. I think I'm going to go for some hats now. Turn off loop points. I'm going to trim it. I'm going to turn down the out a little bit more, and I'm going to turn the multiply up just to give it a weirder, like more stretched metallic feel. Just mess with the velocities a little bit. Right, now I'm gonna add one more hi-hat. Alright, now I'm going to go in and add some open hats. On these ones I just messed with the pan a little bit. I might mess with the velocities too. Just gives it a more natural feel. Now I hear a couple other like rims and maybe a perk or two. And there's way too many perks. I think there's like 25 of each, the alpha and the omega. So you got a lot to choose from when it comes to those. And there's, in the omega folder, there's some weird stuff. Like this demonic slide whistle, I think is my favorite. I don't know how anyone would ever use that, but I put it in there because I wanted to see if someone could. I like this sound a lot. I kind of use it like an open hat. Gives kind of an interesting feel to that. Alright, so I think that's pretty much all the drums I want to do. I will walk you through how I mix my drums real quick. I like to do this thing. You just select all of them in the channel rack, come to this arrow, color selected gradient, and then you can just color all your drums like this. I like doing that just because when you throw it in the channel rack, it also colors these. So it just helps me differentiate like where those actual sounds are. And the way I did that also was keeping those selected, right click on the first channel you want to send them to, channel routing, route selected channels from this track. So I get asked this a lot, like what's on my master. First, I have a soothe. This is the less mud on the master preset. That just kind of cleans up some of the frequencies that make the beat muddy. And then I throw a TR5 classic clipper. That's how you get it loud as hell without it like distorting like crazy. I usually start with just like the melody, and then I add in the 808. I use a EQ to cut out the very sub frequencies that just make it muddy and that you can't even hear. And I would usually put like some distortion on the 808, but I don't need to because it's already perfect, because it's from my perfect drum kit. But if I were to, I would usually use like Blood Overdrive or Isotope Trash 2 are both really good for distortion. Then I'll add in the kick. And I usually like my kick just to hit a little louder than my 808. I used to sidechain a lot, but I don't really do that anymore. Snare usually about the same spot. Hi-hat's lower. And then on this hi-hat, I want to add a little reverb, so I'm just gonna throw Fruity Reverb 2 on there. Really easy and really tempting to add reverb to everything, especially on ambient beats like this. So you gotta stay wary of that kind of trap. Don't do that. I am adding reverb to a lot of sounds, but I'm keeping the wet pretty low. You don't want it to drown out your sounds. I used to do that a lot and it made my beats sound like shit, so don't do that. I want that scrape perk to be really like spread out and wide, so I'm going to go to the stereo shaper to the shrinked preset. And I want the like the sword scrape to have some reverb and some delay on it, just so it goes, you know what I'm saying? Alright, I think that's a pretty good mix for now. Now I'm going to structure it a little bit, which I'll probably just like fast forward or skip through, and then I'll come back and I'll explain it, because it usually takes me a while to figure out how I want to structure it.
2 hours later.
Alright, I think I'm done arranging. I might do a little bit more on the mix before I show you the final thing, but I just want to run through a couple quick things I did with the arrangement on this one. I've talked about this before, but I like to stop my drums at the last snare when it's transitioning into another section. So like these do that. This one needs to do that. I actually forgot to do that here. So just bring those back a bit like that. And then I also like to cut, if I have a bass leading into a drop, I like to cut the bass at that last snare as well, or at the last, where this last snare would be. So even if there wasn't a snare there, I would stop it there, which I actually do up here. Yeah, with this, that sub bass. Even though there's no snare playing, I stop it at the last snare just so there's a little space before another different type of bass comes in. I just like to leave that space there. Then there are also a couple sections where drums come in late, which I've talked about before as well. I just like to give this kind of tension release type of thing. And I also used a couple risers for this effect, so it sounds like this. So it's kind of a delayed drop. It's just that kick and 808 hitting, then there's a riser leading into that snare, and then the rest of the drums come in led in by a different riser, which gives a pretty cool effect. And I did that in 2 seconds of the beat, same exact thing. But other than that, it was just using like risers and crashes, which are all from my drum kit, just to transition between sections. There's this cool little crash that is actually tonal, so I had to pitch it to fit. And then there's this weird riser, which is also kind of tonal, but atonal in a way. I don't know. It's got like a pitch to it, but it fits over pretty much everything I've used it on, and I haven't had to pitch it differently, so there's that. But yeah, I'll probably just throw my tag on here, do a little cleaning in the mix, and the finished beat will play right after this. Thank you guys so much for watching, really appreciate it. If you did like, leave a like, obviously. Subscribe if you want to see more like this. I'll probably be doing some more tutorials soon, because I got a new kit out, and I gotta advertise that, you know what I'm saying? Gotta get that bag. But yeah, subscribe, like, comment, let me know what you want to see. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at prodby_instinct. You can cop my other kits, Vertigo, which is a drum kit, and Silhouette, which is a sample kit. Also on my website, you can use that same code, video25, for 25% off of that, or those. Make sure you sub to my main channel, Instinct, and my R&B channel, Rain. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. Peace.